Hello and welcome. This explainer is really for the descendants and relatives of James Charles Bull, but honestly, it's for anyone who's ever stared at a blank space in their family tree. We're about to piece together a story that was lost for over 100 years. It's a story of new names, a hidden past, and a secret so deep it took the tools of modern science to finally bring it all out into the open. So let's dive in.
For generations, this was the question at the heart of it all. You had this couple, James Wesley Stewart and Maddie Laura Bonner. They just appeared in Williamsburg County, South Carolina, around 1905. They told everyone, and I mean everyone, including their own children, that they were from Escambia County, Florida. But here's the thing, their past seemed to begin and end right there. It was a complete blank slate that nobody could figure out. And believe me, people tried to figure it out. The search for where they came from was long and, frankly, really frustrating. It spanned more than half a century. Back in the 1960s, the family put together its first history, and it pretty much cemented the official story they'd all been told. But by the 90s and then into the 2010s, with every new effort to find roots in Florida, nothing. Every single lead just went cold. The family tree had hit a solid brick wall. And this, right here, was the core of the problem. The official story, the one passed down, said James's parents were Rachel and Thomas Calvin Stewart, and Maddie's parents were supposedly Susan Long and Franklin Chalice Bonner. But when researchers actually went looking for those names in Florida records, zip, nada. No birth certificates, no census data. It was like these four people just never existed. So the breakthrough, when it finally came, well, it wasn't found in some dusty archive or an old courthouse ledger. The answer came from the frontier of modern science. It was literally written in the family's own DNA. And this is pretty amazing. The key that unlocked this whole century-old mystery wasn't just one test. It took a massive effort. We're talking 14 separate DNA tests, all from different descendants. That included 12 autosomal tests, the kind that give you that broad genetic picture, and 2 Y-DNA tests, which traced that direct paternal line. It was this mountain of genetic evidence that finally started to crack the case wide open. So, in 2021, this incredible combination of science and just relentless, old-fashioned genealogy work finally smashed through that brick wall. The DNA pointed researchers in a totally new direction, and suddenly, the paper trail that had been invisible for a century started to appear. So, after all those decades of searching, who was James Wesley Stewart really? His real name was Joseph J. Haney. And get this, he wasn't from Florida at all. He was from Choctaw County, Alabama. His parents were Rachel Morgan and Thomas Calvin Haney. Okay, so what about his wife? The woman the family knew their whole lives as Maddie Laura Bonner. She was Maddie Laura Bull, daughter of James Charles Bull, the very man whose family was looking for her. She was also from Choctaw County, Alabama. In just this unbelievable twist, the search for a lost branch of the family led them right back to their own name. So their entire story wasn't rooted in Florida. It was right there in Choctaw County, Alabama. That's where they got married back in 1896, where they started their family. Joseph was even a respected man in the community. He was appointed a notary and a justice of the peace in 1902. So why leave? Why would they just erase their whole past and invent completely new identities? Well, the reason they ran, the reason they wiped their past clean, it wasn't some small dispute. It was tied to a dark, violent tragedy, the murder of Maddie's own father, James Charles Bull. The events unfolded really fast. In January of 1903, Jim Bull was killed. By May, a grand jury had already indicted 3 men for the crime. But over the next 2 years, something crucial happens. One of those men, Joseph J. Haney, just disappears. He's never arrested. Then, in 1905, the other 2 men are tried and found not guilty. And look who was indicted. It was a true family affair. You had Joseph J. Haney, Jim Bull's own son-in-law. You had his brother-in-law, John Wesley Lewis, and you had his father, Calvin Haney. With Joseph vanishing off the face of the earth, a cloud of suspicion would hang over his name for the rest of his hidden life. And right here, this is the moment. This is the turning point, frozen in time. This health certificate from Jacksonville, Florida, is the first documented proof of the new identity. On this day, Joseph J. Haney officially vanished from the public record, and James Wesley Stewart was born.
So, this is the question that's still hanging in the air. What really happened that day? With the other two men being found not guilty and Joseph Haney never even facing a trial, the full story of that day in January 1903 was never told in a court of law. It's a painful mystery, and we may simply never know the whole truth.
So you see, the family's history was literally split in two. You had the Alabama story of the Haneys and the Bulls, a story that ended in tragedy and a desperate escape. And then you had the South Carolina story of the Stewarts and the Bonners, a brand new life built on a foundation of secrets, where they went on to raise 11 children who never, ever knew their parents' real names.
But thanks to all this research, we can finally reconnect these lost branches. We can look at this photograph of the Bull family now and truly understand how their story was fractured, but thankfully never completely erased.
And here they are, Maddie Laura Bull and Joseph J. Haney, the couple known for 100 years as the Stewarts. They built a new life, they raised a large family, including a daughter named Nettie Elnora Stewart, and they made sure their line would continue, even if it had to be under a different name. So the biggest takeaway here is how these three powerful tools came together to make this happen. The DNA gave the undeniable scientific link. The old family photographs helped put faces to the forgotten names. And the dedicated genealogy, that was the hard work that wove it all together to finally solve a puzzle that was over a century old. This whole incredible story was brought to light through the tireless efforts of dedicated family historians. A huge credit goes to Stephen James Coker, a great-grandson of Maddie Laura Bull, and also to Leah Chatnam for her amazing work on the Haney family connection. It's just a powerful testament to what drives families to uncover their own stories.
You know, the story of Maddie Laura Bull and Joseph J. Haney is just this profound reminder that our histories, no matter how deeply they're hidden, are always with us. Their story of loss and then rediscovery kind of invites all of us to look a little closer at those blank spaces in our own family trees, because you just never know what stories are out there just waiting to be told.